Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to call this regular council meeting to order. And I want to acknowledge that the lands upon which we're all located within the town of Fort Erie, and even the lawyer who's outside of Fort Erie, but I'm sure on land that is the traditional territory here of the Haudenosaunee and the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Anishinaabe people, many of whom continue to reside in Fort Erie and in Niagara and add to the richness and diversity of our communities. Madam Clerk, the roll call.
All members of council are present, your worship.
And how about if we go back to invocation, which I skipped over?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all.
Thank you very much. There are a couple of addenda this evening. The first deals with an additional notice of an upcoming public meeting, which I will refer to momentarily. And there's also, with respect to bylaws 19-2021 and 20-2021, which relate to the authorization for the execution of an assumption agreement for two condominium corporations. Those assumption agreements were not attached to the original agenda. They are now attached to the addendum. And then the second addenda deals with this meeting being called for 5:30 as opposed to 6 o'clock. The closed session has been moved up to item 5, which will be preceding declarations of pecuniary interest. Sorry, immediately after declarations of pecuniary interest. And the announcements will be moved to number 7. And then there's one report deleted. That is the award for tender for the construction of the fire station. And that's a report that will be dealt with at the March 8th, 2021 council meeting, pending further information being provided to members of council. So are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I have 3 this evening. I have to declare a pecuniary interest on PDS 17-2021. That's the Animal Welfare Protection and Control Bylaw Recommendation Report. As the company I work for has performed contracted services for the Fort Erie SPCA, and an animal welfare protection and control bylaw may impact their operations. And I also have another 2 this evening in the bylaw package. I've got bylaw 17-2021. That's to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Ashton Homes Western Limited for Peacebridge Village Phase 2, and also for bylaw 18-2021, which is the same thing for Park Lane Home Builders. As the subdivision, I live in a subdivision developed by Ashton Homes Western Limited that has not yet been transferred to the municipality. And with respect to bylaw 18-2021, Ashton is involved in the construction of Peacebridge Village Phase 2, and the clerk has the forms already.
Thank you. Are there any other declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I'm going to declare a pecuniary interest with respect to PDS 14-2021, which is the Urban Area Boundary Expansion Study Addendum number 1. I have 2 clients that own property within one of the areas that's under consideration. And while though that particular area is way down the list, it's out of an abundance of caution, I'm again going to declare pecuniary interest. And when we get to that report, I'm going to ask the acting mayor, and I believe that's still Councillor Zanko, to assume the chair. No? Madam Clerk?
It's Councillor Noyes, your worship.
Councillor Noyes. Sorry, that's right. Councillor Noyes, you did that, I think, the last time. Thank you. So if there are no other declarations of pecuniary interest, then I'm going to ask Councillor Noyes for a resolution for us to go into closed session, which is the reason why the meeting has been called early this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Zanko. The council does now go into closed session at 5:41. PM to discuss the following. Pursuant to the subsection 239 in brackets 2 in brackets E of the Municipal Act 2021, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and subsection 239 in brackets 2 brackets F of the Municipal Act 2001, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, regarding Allison Wood's draft plan of subdivision, appeal of draft conditions, minutes of settlement.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So, Mr. Davis, you'll get us into closed session.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just sending it to the closed session room now.
we back in open session now, Mr. Davis?
Yes, I believe everybody's back.
Okay, so we have a motion, Councillor Zanko, for council to move back into open session.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 6:39 p.m. with report that staff proceed as directed.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. So that takes us back to the agenda where we left off. And that was at item number 6, which was,
Announcements.
yes, no, announcements is number 7 now. But the, according to the addendum, the notice of upcoming public meetings, so there are 3 that are scheduled, 2 that show on the original agenda, 1 on the addendum, and that is, the first one is proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment regarding 255 High Street, which is owned by Lions Douglas Heights Seniors Residence. And that will be held on Monday, March the 8th, 2021, via teleconference starting at 6 p.m. And the information report for that public meeting will be available on our website on March the 3rd, 2021. The second upcoming meeting is a proposed zoning bylaw amendment on Pettit Road. Property is owned by KRS Holding, Inc. And again, same evening, March the 8th, 2021, via video teleconference. The information report will be available March 3rd, 2021. And the third upcoming meeting is Cannabis Legislation and Policy Study Public Open House to be held Thursday, March the 4th, 2021 at 5 p.m. by video teleconference. To participate via audio, video, web, or telephone, you have to send an email to Lindsay Richardson of the town staff. She's the senior community planner at lrichardson@forterie.ca for information on how to join that meeting and some background information. So then that takes us to announcements, and I'm going to be fairly brief because this is going to be a long evening this evening. I just want to very briefly touch on COVID and to remind the public that Public Health updates its website with respect to what's happening in Niagara regarding COVID cases and outbreaks, that type of thing, and vaccinations every morning around 11:30. And the town has a link to that website. The town also publishes the information that we receive on a weekly basis to show the status of the town from one week to the next. And again, that's shown on our website. And then I also wanted to make reference to the fact that on Friday afternoon at 2:00, every Friday recently, Dr. Hergy, the region's acting medical officer of health, has provided an update, background information, and then responded to questions from members of regional council, which makes up the regional board of health. And so there's that information that's available. I also wanted to point out that the town's Economic Development and Tourism Services Department has had continuous contact with the business community. They've been providing information and obtaining information from the business community to assist them with respect to programs that are available for them and to try to respond to the questions that they have relative to the operation of their business. And of course, councillors are continuously responding to inquiries that we receive from members of the public regarding COVID and its various aspects. The final point that I wanted to reference on COVID was that the federal government has announced the extension of the border restrictions to March the 21st. And as most of you know, has increased the requirements for those returning to Canada, both by land and by air, requiring tests and quarantining. All of that is available on the federal government's website. Second thing that I wanted to make reference to, and this is something that I'm sure other members of council are receiving, is inquiries about what's happening with internet service in Fort Erie. And as I've announced before, there is a broadband task force. That task force is going to be meeting tomorrow coincidentally with Bell, which recently submitted and received some grant funding from a federal government program to install fiber in 2 areas of the town of Fort Erie. That information will be made more public after the meeting tomorrow, but I want to assure the residents that council and the task force and the municipal staff have been working diligently with internet service providers, trying to find ways that we can get them to expand their existing networks or put in new networks. And we've even been working with and meeting with ISPs who don't yet have a network in Fort Erie, all to the end of trying to make sure that people can be connected with reliable and affordable internet service. Those are the other thing that I wanted to make reference to, because there doesn't seem to be a great understanding, is that the town council and staff have been working on a variety of initiatives, including things like affordable housing and making sure that people in Fort Erie have access to healthcare, medical services. And there have been some successes on those fronts. And later in today's agenda, there will be a report that talks about an opportunity for us as a council to obtain some funding for affordable housing initiative. And there will be a delegation actually coming up shortly, which will talk about hopefully a mix of housing for seniors. So in addition to our component here in Fort Erie, and those are all things that the council is working on, along with a whole bunch of other things. And there's a further report on our agenda this evening that talks about how busy bylaw enforcement has been and the number of complaints that are received and have been responded to over and above the COVID complaints that we've been receiving. And as a result of that, we have been expanding our bylaw enforcement services, and they've been putting in a lot of work. And one final note, very recently, there's been a change. There was a change in command with the Niagara Regional Police Services Detachment in Fort Erie. The CAO, Mr. Cookett, and I have had an opportunity to meet with the new staff sergeant and some of the senior brass at the regional police services. And there are some new initiatives that have been put in place very recently, including partnership between the town of Fort Erie and the police service with ATVs to help patrol the recreation trails in our community. That has proven quite successful right off the bat. And there was some activity last weekend that we received information from the staff sergeant, Eric Elwood, about. Very encouraging, very promising. And so that's something that we're very pleased about. There was another email that was sent out, and I shared it with the ward councillor about a property in Fort Erie that has been problematic. So those are just some of the things that are happening. There's a lot of stuff that's on the go, and maybe part of the problem is that we, since we're in the middle of it and we're working on it, kind of take that for granted. But I want the public to be aware of the fact that councillors are continuously responding to requests and inquiries and complaints, passing those on to staff, and we try to deal with those as effectively and as quickly as we can. So that gets us back to, I think, the agenda. And the next item on the agenda, Madam Clerk, as far as I can tell, is the regional councillor's report. And is Councillor Encina with us this evening? I don't see him.
I think, Kelly,
I don't believe he's here, but he was sent an invitation.
Okay, and he may not be, the schedule may have left him unaware that this is a regular council meeting.
yeah, no, I did speak with him this afternoon and he was aware.
Okay, but he's not here this evening? He's not in the waiting room?
I don't see him in the waiting room. I'm going to reach out to the waiting room just to make them aware that we're waiting for Mr. Encina.
Please do. And if for some reason he shows up later on, we can always
I will
slot him in. So we'll just defer him for the time being.
Okay.
That then takes us to presentations and delegations. And the first delegation is David Adames, CEO, and Sandy Bellows, the chair of the Niagara Parks Commission.
Just bringing Mr. Adams in. Okay. I don't see Miss Burrows, but I do see,
Mellows, she may be on the phone, but Mr. Dames can advise us whether Ms. Bellows is with us or not.
Yeah, through the mayor. Yes, I believe that Sandy was in the waiting room, but
she, would she be under a different name?
might be under last name DeWolf. Not
Nothing
showing up.
to me there, no. So I don't see her.
Okay. Would you like us to defer to the next delegation? I could try and see if I can reach Chair Bellows.
Sure, that's fine if you don't mind, Mr. Dames.
Okay, I will do that.
Perfect. Okay, so then we'll just stand the MPC delegation down and we'll go to the next delegation, which is Stephen Pissarro, the Lions Club, co-chair of the New Build Committee.
Yeah, I do see Mr. Pissarro. I'm bringing him in right now.
Thank you. Okay, so then we'll just stand the MPC delegation down and we'll go to the next delegation, which is Stephen Pissarro, the Lions Club. I've heard that before. It's like an echo.
Yeah,
Mr. Pissarro, good evening.
I'm bringing him in right now.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship.
Good evening. How are you, Mr. Pissarro?
Okay, so then. Very well. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Well, you're more than welcome. We're interested to hear the news, and you're on.
Excellent. Thank you. To yourself, members of council and town staff, it's great to see everybody. In 1988, the Fort Erie Lions Club embarked on an ambitious project, the construction of a 57-unit apartment building for seniors in our community. This was on the heels of their successful completion of a senior center on the same property. The need was great then. The need is dire now. In 2018, just as our club had done 30 years previous, we again mobilized to try and address this need. The Lions Club board approved an exploratory committee to investigate the potential to build another seniors apartment building. It has been a journey of ups and downs, but our club has never lost sight that the end goal would be worth the effort. After attending numerous seminars, presentations, and having discussions with reps from the town of Fort Erie planning staff who have been incredible, Niagara Regional Housing, and Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, from here on out I may just refer to as CMHC, we decided to bring a consultant on board to assist us in the submission of an application to CMHC for seed funding to advance our explorations. Around the same time, the town created an affordable housing committee to provide advice and guidance to council. The creation of this committee was recognition that much needs to be done in this sector. The town contracted the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis to provide insight into current numbers and trends in the town of Fort Erie. A presentation was done to the committee and other interested local agencies. This council is acutely aware of the desperate need for affordable housing, so I will not belabor the point. I will simply highlight a couple key insights from that presentation with numbers compiled from Stats Canada and CMHC data. A main point was discussing core housing need. A household is said to be in core housing need if its housing falls below at least one of the three following standards: adequacy, affordability, or suitability. Keying in on the affordability, individuals spending 30% or more of total before tax income to pay the median rent of alternative local housing are deemed to be in need of core housing. As of the study's publication date in July of 2019, at that time, there were 566 senior-led households in core housing need in the town of Fort Erie. The senior-led households that are most vulnerable to core housing need are renters and seniors living alone. Bolstered by this information, our Lions Club pressed on, knowing that those numbers were likely to only get higher. We have accomplished quite a lot to date. In October 2019, we brought on Gord Zazi, Project Manager of Housing Development with Niagara Regional Housing. We brought him on a contract as a consultant to assist us moving forward. In January of 2020, meetings began with our consulting group CoreTech to begin the feasibility and design process, identification of land constraints, possible site plan configurations, preliminary building drawings, and materials needed for town pre-consultation meetings and further discussions. Also in January, a topographical survey was completed. In February, we did an ESA, Environmental Site Assessment, Phase 1, subsequently also a Phase 2. In March, we held the pre-consultation meeting with the town of Fort Erie, and our organization also held a preliminary meeting with our own legal counsel regarding this project to receive guidance on internal next steps. In May, a geotechnical survey was completed, which has demonstrated that the hill of the property is stable enough to allow for our current design. A cost consultant Class D report was prepared, which detailed analysis of the cost to construct the building. Archaeological surveys, phases 1 and 2 were completed, and we contracted and have completed other studies as determined through our pre-consultation meetings and necessary for our planning submission to the town. On paper, as I read those, each of them is merely represented by a bullet point. However, each of those bullet points represents an inordinate amount of time and efforts and money to bring us to where we are now. A submitted application to the town proposing to build an 8-story above ground, 2 stories below ground apartment building with affordable units geared towards seniors 60 plus. We are currently in the process of an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, of which, as you mentioned, Your Worship, an information report will be presented to you on March 8th in concert with a public meeting. We want to thank planning staff for their assistance in helping us navigate this process. What I would like to key in on tonight is the financial aspect of the project, specifically our CMHC application for funding. Our cost estimate puts us in the range of $22 to $25 million for this building, a far cry from the $4 million that it cost to build the current building back in 1988. A CMHC application for a project such as this is broken down into 2 funding streams, a grant and a mortgage. The maximum allowable grant is 30%. However, that is reserved for buildings such as shelters and other facilities serving at-risk individuals. Based on the characteristics of our build, 1% to 10% is in line. However, closer to 2.5% as a grant is realistic, and that would be 2.5% of our overall building cost. Many things go into CMHC's decision to allocate grant dollars. Having other entities involved financially, either through grants, waiving of fees, or services in kind, is a key driver. We're asking the municipality to assist us in this aspect. We are requesting 2 items for your consideration and support. One is the waiving of fees pertaining to the planning process, being the fees of our official plan amendment application and zoning bylaw amendment application currently occurring. And secondly, the waiving of parkland dedication charges, which for a project like this equates to $2,000 per unit or $124,000. Municipal support means a stronger application, which means maximizing the grant amount from CMHC. Any monies we cannot get through the grant will have to be done through the mortgage aspect of the funding. And to make the project viable, every dollar helps. Waiving of these fees will not only bolster our application, but also contribute largely in the overall financial viability. Please do not mistake my messaging. The Fort Erie Lions fully intend to complete this project. However, it may take many more years to achieve a mortgage amount at a serviceable level if we cannot bring that down now. We cannot make units affordable to tenants if we cannot make them affordable to build. We are competing against other groups and organizations across the country for CMHC funds. 2.5% may not seem like a lot, but based on a $20 million plus project, it is the difference between viable or not, happening now or continuing to be a dream for years to come. We would like to turn the dream into a reality now. Individuals who need these apartments cannot afford to wait any longer. On behalf of the Fort Erie Lions Club, thank you for your consideration of our request. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and respectfully request that a councillor would see fit to place a notice of motion forward later in the agenda so that council can deliberate our request in the near future. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pissarro. And I think what we'll do is in the information report that we receive as part of the public hearing on March the 8th, perhaps staff, Ms. Dolge, could provide us with some information as to what the financial implications are with respect to the request made for financial assistance on behalf of the Fort Erie Lions Club. So we'll have that in the report, and that would be an appropriate time for us then to consider anything further on that. So that'll save one step, I think.
Thank you.
Any members of council have any questions of Mr. Pacero? Councillor Dubanow and then Councillor Butler.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Pacero. Good to see you this evening, Stephen. Just two quick questions for you this evening. I'm curious, who's going to be managing the new building?
So the management and operation of the new building will be exactly as it is for our current build. For those who don't know how that's done, we do have a corporation set up that manages the apartment building. The membership of that corporation is done through the membership of the Fort Erie Lions Club. So although it's a separate corporation in partnership with Niagara Regional Housing, when it comes down to it, it is the Fort Erie Lions Club that controls all aspects of that building. That's how it's done currently, and that's how the new building will be done as well.
Thank you. And if I may continue, Your Worship, you had mentioned, Mr. Pacero, during your presentation that there was an environmental site assessment study that was done. And I'm just curious, what were the results of that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Dubanow. So the phase one is intrinsic into any planning application, just to give us an idea as to whether or not there might be further need or further action to be taken for site remediation. And what the phase one notified us to is we were already aware of the current use of the property dating back many years to a school on the site. An investigation of that school brought up the prospect that there may be an oil tank on the property that would have been used for heating at the time. We were not able to locate anything of concrete evidence through any of our different channels that we utilized to say that either A, there was the oil tank, or B, there was and it had been removed, which necessitated the need to go through to a phase two. Phase two exploration has alleviated any of those concerns. So we're confident in moving forward and we don't have to do any further ESA phases.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And through you again, I've been through those environmental site assessment studies, and they can be quite a challenge if you do find something such as an oil tank or gasoline tanks or something like that. So that's why I asked. But other than that, I do appreciate all the efforts that the Fort Erie Lions are working on with this project. Please convey my best to them. I am very much looking forward to getting out for a roast beef dinner once they resume. I miss them so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just through you to Mr. Pacero, Stephen, I'm right there with you. I hope that the Fort Erie Lions Club's dream does become a reality. I've been a really strong supporter of affordable housing for a very long time, as you know, and this would be supportive of our cause, especially since the Lions Club has been well known at establishing truly affordable housing. Just curious though, through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Pacero, have you had a chance to review the balance of council's agenda by any chance?
I have. I still like to stay a little bit informed, maybe not as in-depth as in the past, but I have seen the agenda.
So I'm just on the affordable housing initiatives, there's an initiative by Compass Heights Development, and I just wondered if you had any comments on the options outlined regarding the utilization of funds from them.
I think it's tremendous that council is looking at attributing actual dollars towards these initiatives. It's a long time coming, and council's to be congratulated for that. You know, $150,000, it may not seem like a lot of money, but when you look at some of the studies that I went through to get us to this point, you know, those are all studies with price tags of $2,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 price tags attached to them. So if council is looking towards starting a fund, it may not necessarily be attributing a big chunk of money to a particular project, but even just starting up a fund where you could help organizations such as ours in the future to pay for some of these initial costs going forward. That's really is the first step. And unfortunately, a lot of organizations don't have those funds to get the ball rolling. We're thankful that the town did help us pay for the archaeological aspect of things by diverting some funds from another project. So it's the little things like that that show confidence in a project and really get the ball rolling. So I think it's great if you can leverage that money from developers and put it towards affordable housing. But like I said, it doesn't always have to be a big dollar item to one organization. Creating a fund with some of those smaller priced items to at least get the process started is also very beneficial.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I do recognize that Ridgeway Lions also will be in line next to ask for assistance with their build as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Pacero. Just a couple quick questions. In your remarks, you had mentioned seeking legal counsel with regard to internal next steps. What do you mean by that?
So for those not familiar with kind of the intricacies of the property itself, if you're looking at our property at High Street, you see a senior center, and you also see the senior residence apartment building. And it looks as if it's one property. However, it's not. It's actually two separate parcels. The residence building, as I mentioned to Councillor Dubanow, is run by a corporation under the umbrella of the Fort Erie Lions Club. And we have a separate corporation that is constituted for the operation and maintenance of the seniors center. And each of those buildings actually sits on a separate parcel of property, even though they're both controlled by the Lions Club. So legal advice we've had to get is how do we structure this internally, keeping in mind that once you see the information report come forward on the 8th, you'll notice that our fire lane services both properties. We have to have an agreement between Corporation A and Corporation B for easements, for use of parking back and forth. So although the public sees one property, it's actually two parcels, and we just need agreements from corporation to corporation to ensure that things are done properly. So at the end of the day, it's all Fort Erie Lions Club, but in the eyes of the law, it's two separate parcels working together to pull this project off.
Councillor Zanko.
Thank you. And further, I'm really excited to see this project advance. I hear firsthand how many people are in need of these units. So very, very exciting. What type of timelines are you looking at?
So we're currently, as I had mentioned, going through the ZBA and OPA process. Once that comes on March 8th, I know Council is familiar with the timelines associated with that. We know planning staff are working hard to, or will work hard to compile the comments and get those back to us and our consultants so that we can have a recommendation report come forward. Ideally, we'd like to have all of our information put together for our financial application as soon as possible. There's a 3 to 4 month timeline associated with that. And then once that comes back, then we look into some more detailed construction drawings, designs, and all those things that go along with that. So best case scenario, I think we would hope to have a shovel in the ground a year from now, a year and a half from now, and then looking at 8 to 10 months, possibly a year of construction. So it seems like a long time, but we've got most of the work behind us, and now it's really just those big check marks to tick off now.
Excellent. Thank you. Nothing further. It was nice to see you.
Thank you, Councillor Zanko. Any other councillors? Thank you very much, Mr. Pacero, and we look forward to the public meeting on March the 8th and moving forward from there.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. So I see Mr. Adames is back. And were you able to connect with Ms. Bellows?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think we have, and I think Chair Bellows is just coming in now, connecting on the audio. Thanks so much for the patience, and I will share our presentation as well.
Great. Good evening, Ms. Bellows.
Is she there?
Okay, Mr. Adames, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks so much. Again, to the mayor, members of council, Chair Bellows and I are making an update presentation regarding Niagara Parks to local councils. So we have a presentation to take you through tonight, and as soon as Sandy Bellows is connected through, I'll make sure she's introduced as well. So here are obviously the presenters, and we'll keep moving through. I think many of you know some of the background of Niagara Parks. Again, founded in 1885. Our two founding principles are on this slide. And again, that's been provided for your information. The chair is Sandy Bellows. And of course, the town of Fort Erie is represented by Mayor Redekop on our 12-member board. And our mandate is to be the environmental and cultural stewards of the Niagara River corridor. And our vision is to be one of the most spectacular parks in the world. Our operations and funding, I think, as you know, we are an agency of the Ontario Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Industries. We are an operational enterprise, meaning we don't receive any tax dollars. So it's our revenue producing operations that provide the funding that allows us to deliver our environmental and cultural stewardship mandate, which includes the whole 56-kilometer corridor. And here, this map on the right-hand side depicts our sort of front-facing or our guest services from Fort Erie in the south all the way up to Niagara.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks so much. Again, to the mayor, members of council, Chair Bellows and I are making an update presentation regarding Niagara Parks to local councils. So we have a presentation to take you through tonight, and as soon as Sandy Bellows is connected through, I'll make sure she's introduced as well. So here are obviously the presenters. So we'll keep moving through. I think many of you know some of the background of Niagara Parks. Again, founded in 1885. Our two founding principles are on this slide. And again, that's been
I think it's Stevens.
your information.
Pardon?
Sandy Bellows, and of course,
I think it's Stevens. I think he's
Still on?
video on. Yeah, he's still on.
Okay, hold on just 1 second. I just muted
Yeah, you
him.
muted it. There we go.
Okay.
Yep. That's 40 Groundhog Day, Mr. Adeems.
That's okay. It is the month of February, so so thank you for that. So we'll continue on. So again, this map depicts our front-facing. On the left-hand side, it gives you a sense of the breadth of our services that we do operate, and including the next slide, you can see our house brand. So moving left to right on this slide, we operate 6 attractions plus our tenants like the boat tour through Hornblower Niagara Cruises, and again Nature and Gardens, our 4 heritage sites like Old Fort Erie, culinary restaurants, 3 golf courses, of course retail and weddings. Our retail operations were anchored at Table Rock, and of course we did an upgrade to our Table Rock facility, our flagship location located at the iconic Horseshoe Falls. We funded a $25 million renovation in 2019 and 2020, just prior to COVID, and completed that work just as COVID was coming in. So we've fully renovated our Journey Behind the Falls entrance area, our quick service outlet, our retail, and of course our full service Table Rock House restaurant. Our economic impact, a couple of years ago, we undertook a complete economic impact study. We have 4 million unique visitors who visit Niagara Parks, again, the whole 56-kilometer corridor, and the economic impact from those visits is about $1.2 billion. And prior to COVID, our head count was about 1,800 staff, and our payroll was $57 million. So it gives you a sense of scope and scale. The impacts of COVID, and you would have heard from many tourism operators, that is our core business in terms of the visitation that comes to Niagara Parks. And we have been heavily impacted to the tune of about a 70% impact on our revenues, and about the same for attendance. And we did receive a one-time stabilization grant from the Ministry of Tourism back in December for $12.8 million. That was a very significant assistance for us. Our strategic plan drives all of what we do. These are the 4 themes in our strategic plan. So you can imagine our environmental and cultural stewardship under the first theme, our front-facing, our guest services under number 2, our work with our tenants and expanding business opportunities in theme number 3, and then again our customer service and our systems and administration under theme number 4. Something that we're very proud of is all of the work that we do under environmental stewardship. And a lot of this work happens on the upper Niagara River, including in the town of Fort Erie. So these are a few of the both images on the left-hand side, the list of projects on this slide, and the slide that follows. So our coastal wetland restoration work, and we're very active in places like Baker's Creek and Black Creek, Gonders Flats area as well. The Niagara River riparian restoration work as well. Of course, our urban forestry management working. You'll see the forestry crew out working even in the winter, including this winter. On this one, our Audubon certification of Legends on the Niagara, one of only 2 golf courses in Southern Ontario to have that designation. Our trail asset and tourism work we do with Brock University, our annual prescribed burn program, and of course, our invasive species management strategy. We always offer a large number of community programs or programming as a whole. And this year in 2020, we did pivot some of those to online or virtual programs like our virtual Black History Speaker Series. Our next session is this coming Wednesday night. We also have our health and wellness programs like our Namaste Niagara, our very important partnership with Landscape and Nations 360, our Indigenous education programming, and our speaker series at Old Fort Erie. In terms of key initiatives that are taking place directly in the town of Fort Erie, of course, we do have a service agreement with the town. We have a very close working relationship with all departments at the town. That includes the fire department. So whenever we have storm incidents, Niagara Parks Police and Roads Department are in close contact with Fort Erie Fire. As you all know, the storms that we've had, 3 significant storms in the last 2 years, so that break wall has sustained a significant impact. We work together on upgrading the cycling path. Our work with Sir Wilfrid Laurier University on archaeology at the Old Fort, operating the Marina, the Black Creek Bridge project, which will be a capital repair. We've just undertaken recent public consultation. We'll also be doing quite a bit of work on our boat launches, and we have 5 boat launches on the Upper Niagara River. So we'll be upgrading the Nichols Marine site this year as well, and of course, events like the siege at Old Fort Erie. So these are some of the recent investments as we had to do some capital repair work to the break wall. It was just over $400,000, mostly in 2019, a little bit in 2020. Our contribution to the trail upgrade was about $108,000. And our team has been able to secure over $440,000 in grants for some of that very important environmental stewardship work. And this past year, 2020, we spent about $60,000 in upgrades at the Marina to have that operating for the summer season, which it will again be operating in 2021. And the last project that we'd like to mention is something, again, that we're very proud of. This is an adaptive reuse of a heritage structure. We have 3 decommissioned hydroelectric power plants, and we're moving forward with turning.
Microphone.
Oh, there you are, Sandy.
Yes, can you, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sandy, we're on to the Canadian Niagara Power Station project.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
Okay.
I just got in.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you. So the Canadian Niagara Power Station, the adaptive reuse, we will be launching phase 1 this July 1st. This is what we will be telling the story of hydroelectric power generation and also bringing in themes like around science, technology, engineering, and math. And we'll open phase 2 the following year, July 2022, when we open the underground infrastructure. So we have the whole tail race that takes out in that lower left image. You can see where the portal takes the viewers out to the American Falls and the Horseshoe Falls. So this is the next large new attraction for Niagara Parks. It's a $25 million 2-phase project that again is moving forward, and Chair Bellows was instrumental in shepherding that business case and the loan request through the Ontario Financing Authority for that. So with that, we're going to open up for questions and answers. But I know Sandy wanted to say hello to council. So go ahead, Sandy.
Hello, Council and Mr. Mayor. So sorry, I was sitting in your waiting room since 5:43. So finally, I tried it on my phone and I got in. So looking forward to your questions. But I think the number one thing that I always try and get across to people is, you know, they always say, well, you guys get so much tax dollars. And I know David has told you we don't. And if there's anything that we can really draw through tonight is that we receive no tax dollars. So if the grass is a little longer, we're trying to do whatever we can with proceeds. Hopefully, things will turn around by July 1st and, everything will be open and everybody will have a great summer, but who knows? But thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure and an honor to be in front of your council tonight.
Thank you very much, Chair Bellows. And I must say that Mr. Adames did an excellent job in your absence. So you can always view the videotape later on just to confirm that.
Thank you,
Councillor,
Mayor.
you're welcome. Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Damos and Ms. Bellows. Ms. Bellows just actually raised an issue that I wanted to ask a question. And I know that you receive a lot of dollars from the tourism venue. How have you been affected by COVID? I know that there has been some tourism activity in Niagara Falls, but how did that affect your operations? And what does it look like for you in 2021?
Yeah.
Mr. Adames, do you want to take a run at that?
Sure, through the mayor. So to put it in perspective, prior to COVID, about 70% of our revenue came from the U.S. and international market. So we had a very strong year, in fact, a record year in 2019-20. So our fiscal year starts April the 1st. We did about $127 million that year. This year, we'll do about a third of that. So 2/3 of our revenue was impacted by COVID. Our peak headcount this past year was about 950, so about half of the headcount as well. Looking ahead to 2021, we have different plans in place depending on different scenarios. We know the rollout of vaccine is very important to restoring the confidence of visitors traveling. There's a question mark about when the border will reopen, but of course we only want the border to reopen when it is safe to do so. So we're focused on a domestic market, meaning primarily Niagara, Greater Toronto, Hamilton area. We have all of our health and safety protocols in place as we did this past year. That's all spelled out on our website as well, so for public consumption. But we are anticipating an incrementally better 2021, but we'll see recovery start to happen more in 22, 23, and going forward from that point.
And if I may, Your Worship,
Yes.
To the speaker, I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of an idea of a breakdown, rather, with respect to the demographics of employment within the Niagara Parks Commission, in terms of how many residents rely on working for you and how many students rely on working for you.
Through the mayor, it's a great question. So again, 2020 is a bit different than the average year. So if I go back to 2019, we had about 800 students working for Niagara Parks. This past year, that number was down to about 200. But I can certainly assure council that the vast majority, in fact, almost all of our employees live in Niagara. There's a healthy percentage who live in Fort Erie, Niagara, the city of Niagara Falls, and then some in Niagara Lake, many in Welland, and some in St. Catharines. Those are sort of the prime pockets of where staff live.
And I just
Mr. Butler.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I just have 2 more questions. You mentioned a speaker series, and I wasn't aware of your speaker series. I would have loved to have tapped into it. What is the marketing that you've been using to push that for us to find out? Because this is the first I've heard of it.
Great. Through the mayor, we do rely an awful lot on our digital channels. So our Facebook account, Twitter, Instagram. We do local media releases as well. So I know that the Fort Erie media will pick it up, other Niagara-based media, but we're certainly happy to send through the town our listings of all of our upcoming speaker series. It's not too late to book for this Wednesday night if you're interested in that session, but we'll have other speaker series coming up later this year as well. But we're happy to send that through the town.
And then one last final question, Your Worship. You mentioned that there was going to be a $20 million spend in servicing the decommissioned power plants. create a tourism venue for
Mhm.
yourselves. Have you reconsidered, or do you have your eye on the Marina project that we've been looking at and speaking about for years?
Yep. So through the mayor, I know, Sandy, did you want to weigh in first? I wasn't sure if you want to weigh in, or do you want me to take that one?
Well, just know that we've been weighing in on it since I've become chair, and it just seems that everything is constantly changing. David, you can go into more detail about what's changing, but we have tried day in and day out, believe me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So through the mayor, and certainly the mayor keeps this file on the docket for Niagara Parks. I can tell you though, it has been impacted by COVID in terms of priorities right now. So we will be looking at doing a market sounding based on some changed criteria for the marina, but it has been delayed due to COVID priorities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDermott.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a very good presentation, David, and welcome back to Council. I do have one concern, and it's because it's a property in our ward here with the coal docks area. Now, I understand that, you've had some difficulties with regards to, maybe higher tenders than what you thought for the shore wall restoration. Maybe you could enlighten us about where you're at with that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. And through the mayor, the shore wall did fail back in 2017. We're working with the Peace Bridge Authority on the repair job. The Peace Bridge Authority has budgeted $1 million US. The tenders that came back this past year were well north of that budget figure. So we're looking to rescope the project and perhaps go out with a design build solution for the shore wall. So that will be going back out to tender this spring.
That's all I have, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor McDermott. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I keep losing everything. Anyway, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Adams. It was very good. And Councillor Butler did ask about the Marina project. So I won't dwell on that again. But you did mention the Black Creek Bridge project and the public thing, and I was involved in following that. Any timelines in regards to? I know it's at the beginning of the phases. You've got the public input, and you've had option A chosen and things like that. I looked at the last information that you provided to the public. But any timelines in regards to engineering and actual construction?
Yeah, through the mayor. So a couple of things. We're looking at doing the design work in 2021. And then we do need to put funding in place for that project. We're estimating the project at about $2.5 million. And again, because of the impacts that we had from COVID, we don't have that in the capital budget at the moment. So we anticipate the earliest construction period might be 2023 or maybe 2024. However, the bridge will need to be redone in a certain window of time. So we'll be monitoring. We'll, obviously keep the engineering studies going on that bridge to make sure it's always safe. But we're anticipating probably the earliest constructions would be 2023.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Thank you very much, Mr. Adames and Ms. Bellows. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and see us and to respond to some of these questions. The Niagara Parks Commission is obviously a big part of our community, and we appreciate your providing us with this update, and we promise that we will continue to pressure you to do more stuff in Fort Erie.
I'm sure you will, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for having us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks,
everyone. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That then takes us to our final delegation, and that is Lynn Cunningham, the account manager with MPAC, the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. which is the body that we always blame first and foremost when it comes to taxes. After the region, sorry. Region number 1, MPAC number 2.
Ms. Cunningham's just on her way in.
Okay.
Okay, I've seen she's arrived. So Ms. Cunningham, if you can turn on your video, that's great.
Good evening, Ms. Cunningham.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you.
Oh, perfect.
We're excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. I will just key up this presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second here. Uh-oh. I don't see it giving me the option to share like I saw earlier. So give me a second here. I'm not sure where I'm looking.
Mr. Davis, can you
Yes.
assist?
Yes.
I've on my laptop, the share screen's right smack in the middle at the bottom.
Yeah, it should be at the bottom. If you run your mouse over top at the bottom of the screen, it might pop up for you. If not, it could be under more, the 3 little dots.
It's weird that it's not showing because it's giving me a join meeting, sign in. It looks weird.
Oh, we had this perfect today.
I know. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
So you've got, what's on your screen right now? You can see us?
I can see you, but in just a minute. Exit minimized video.
If this doesn't work out, I think I have a copy of your presentation. I can run it from my end.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind showing it, then
Okay.
that would, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine.
For whatever reason, it's not looking like I'm seeing it.
Okay, let's try this out. How does that look?
I just see you all.
Oh, you can't see, well, we can see your screen, your presentation.
I know, I can't see anything.
Uh-oh.
Let me go back into the Zoom. Let me go out and in.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh, there's more.
It might help if I send you back out to the waiting room and then bring you back.
Yeah, bring me back in. When, yeah.
I'll try that. It's good.
I can see myself. I just, oh, there's the share screen. Now I see it.
Looks promising.
Mhm.
Done it.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you for your patience and thank you for allowing me to present today. My name is Lynn Cunningham and I'm the account manager of municipal and stakeholder relations for the Niagara region, its municipalities, as well as Haltom and Norfolk for MPAC. And I'll be speaking today about MPAC and valuing Ontario together. The Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, also known as MPAC, assesses and classifies every property in Ontario, from single-family homes to commercial buildings, industrial factories, and farmland. Our Ontario property database is one of the most complex in the world and has data on over 5 million properties. Collectively, those 5 million properties are worth $3 trillion of current value assessment, or CVA. The property assessments we provide are the foundation of Ontario's property tax system, which generates over $30 billion annually. Every municipality in Ontario uses our assessment as the foundation to make informed decisions about how they will invest back into their communities. The municipal tax rates determine how much property tax each property owner fairly pays to fund the municipal services we rely on in our communities, like waste collection and community service. Our job at MPAC is to make sure those assessments reflect the market as of a legislated point in time, which is still currently January 1st, 2016. We deliver customer-focused services efficiently and share insights about Ontario's ever-changing property landscape to help enrich the communities we all live and work in. So looking at how Ontario's property assessment system works from the point of view of a residential property owner, there's 4.9 million of Ontario's 5.4 million properties, or over 90% of the properties, are classified as residential. Of Fort Erie's, you have 17,367 properties that returned on the roll, with the values totaling over $4.1 billion in assessment. With the bulk, so some 13,308 of Fort Erie's properties, they're residential. So for 2020, MPAC actually added over $67 million worth of assessment for 2020. This was actually 90% of our forecast. And of the new assessment, 92.8% was added within 1 year of occupancy. So the bulk of your new assessment is made up of 65 million of it is actually residential and farm properties. So the provincial government is the body that sets legislation and policies that MPAC uses to assess these properties. There's also an independent.
Oh, we've lost your sound.
Often tax policy issues and changes to the way MPAC assesses properties are the jurisdiction of the provincial government. If you own a house in Ontario, your property or local taxing authority determines its budget and residential property tax rates each year and charge taxes based on that rate using MPAC's assessed value of your property. All 444 municipalities pay their portion of MPAC's assessment services. And if you have a question or concern about your property taxes, you would get in touch with you at the municipality. And if you have a question about assessment, it has to come to us at MPAC. So MPAC determines your assessed value based on that legislated valuation date decided upon by the Ontario Minister of Finance. Our local knowledge helps us deliver impartial property values that reflect what's happening in specific communities. And our assessments meet and exceed international standards and best practices in property assessment. We need a lot of data to assess every property in Ontario, and keeping that data current is key to delivering on our mandate. We work closely with municipalities and property owners to capture changes by reviewing building permits and building plans, conducting property inspections when we can, when it's safe to do so, and responding to inquiries from property owners who feel their assessed value is inaccurate, and making updates where we need to. We always have to keep in mind that one sale does not make a market. We review all sales, and that's why we also collect all kinds of information to help inform our assessments. We're constantly monitoring real estate market activity and analyzing sales and financial statements, including rents, financial statements, operating expenses, and other market data to ensure our records are up to date. We also work with our municipal, industrial, and government partners to help us understand what's happening at a local, regional, and provincial level. We recognize how important it is to have strong relationships with our municipal industry and government partners and stakeholders, and your insights are important and a way for us to understand how the province is changing and what that means for property values in communities. So the next province-wide update is top of mind to everyone. We don't know yet when the next province-wide update will be or what that valuation date will be. We'll share that information when the provincial government or the Minister of Finance gives us direction. And in the meantime, we'll continue to keep the data current by working closely with you in the municipalities and property owners to capture changes when we need to. So we're constantly reviewing those building permits and plans and conducting inspections when it's safe to do so and respond to inquiries from property owners who feel that there's something that needs to be adjusted. We're also, like I said, monitoring the activity that's going on all the time and engaging where we need to. So one thing that we do know is that property values continue to be based on the market as of January 1st, 2016, which was our last valuation date when we determined for now, reasonably sold for its state and condition as of that point in time. For now, each time we make a change to a property assessment, we use that January 1st, 2016 valuation date. As you know, we were set to reassess for 2020, and when COVID hit, there was a postponement of that reassessment. So we'll wait to hear what the decision will be if they want to move forward with a new valuation date. So for now, each time we make a change to a property assessment, we use that January 1st, 2016 date still. Even if it's a new house, we put it back to the Jan 1 date. So when we receive a request for reconsideration, we consider the concerns outlined in the request. The property information that we have on file, the assessed values and the sales information for comparable properties in the area, and sales of similar properties in the area as of that Jan 1, 2016 valuation date. So any influence related to COVID-19 that it may have on the property is after that date. So if it's something specific to COVID, then it's not considered because it's not reflexive of that point in time because COVID hadn't yet happened yet. So in terms of how this came about, in January, we shared the 2020 Municipal Partnership Report with you, and there is a link on our website outlining the link to this report. So, but even before COVID, we understood how critical our municipal relationships were to all of our 444 municipalities. And in 2020, those relationships continue to be very critical in response to the pandemic for everybody. So this report has been shared and hopefully you've had opportunity to have a look at it, but I'm just gonna highlight kind of some of the shifts that we did to shift to meet our priorities, to meet your needs. So when it hit last March, our number one priority was to continue to support you as the municipal partners and our employees. And during the first few weeks, we engaged our municipal liaison group, which is a working group made up of municipalities, to learn about your challenges, the priorities, the timelines. We heard and set an agenda for the rest of 2020. And you needed to keep MPAC's business going with minimal disruption in services, and we needed to continue to capture new assessment and support the municipal tax base and adjust and allow more processing and flexibility. So we also offered a deferral of our levy payment. So it was a 0% levy increase for 2021. And through collaboration and partnerships with municipality, we achieved a lot last year. We worked differently to serve you better. We kept the conversation going and we collaborated a lot with municipalities and found new ways to work at changing how we did things. While many construction projects kept operating during shutdowns, we were challenged to find ways to assess new construction differently. So we built a safe way for municipalities to access digital building plans and share them electronically. So we launched also as well a curbside pickup that where we could conduct on-site property inspections where needed and provided safety training and PPE to all of our staff. So Fort Erie, your planning department has been great in working with us and helping us support what we need to do through the providing us the digitized building plans that we require where we can't do the physical inspections that we need. And obviously hopefully one day we'll be able to get back to doing that. But I think we'll want to continue and forge ahead with that curbside pickup as well as the digitization of the building plans and providing them. We'll continue to work and improve and create efficiencies with municipalities so we can work faster. So as you know, and it's been broadcasted, we captured 37.3 billion in new assessments last year. And we did so through those efficiencies that I'm referring to. So the close or the highlight of the 2020 Municipal Partnership Report, we also looked to the future of 2020 by transforming how we shared data with municipalities. We made a decision to accelerate the build of our new version of Municipal Connect, which is our municipal sharing portal and a key way for municipal staff to manage our assessment base. So as an organization that moved to cloud computing several years ago, with a remote working policy in place, we were all set to rapidly and dramatically shift our priorities when we had to. And our IT built this new version of Municipal Connect with improved functionality and a modern interface and geospatial mapping and increased data security. And all of this and the next phase of this project is going to be expanded out, and your Fort Erie staff will be trained in March on the new platform. So just a reminder, and shifting back to what you may remember about my property. About My Property is the platform. We know you often, as councillors, get questions from your constituents about assessments. And About My Property is an online tool available through mpac.ca, our website, where property owners can see their information that we have on file and learn more about how we've assessed their properties and compare their assessments to others in the area. It's also where we share more detailed information to property owners about our work. We publish methodology guides, market valuation reports, and property-specific details that together explain how we determine the property's assessed value. This is part of our commitment to clearly and openly explaining the property assessment process and how we arrive at the values. If a property owner disagrees with their property's assessed value and classification, all property owners have the option of asking MPAC to review their property assessment free of charge through the request for reconsideration process. When MPAC receives the request for reconsideration, we conduct a detailed review free of charge. And the review may provide an opportunity to submit new information or correct inaccuracies that play a part in the assessment.
Excuse me, Ms. Cunningham, how much longer do you anticipate you'll be?
Oh, very quick. Sorry.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. So resolving assessment concerns, there's a 4-step process. We just want to remind people that Fort Erie doesn't have very many outstanding appeals with the ARB, and only really 18 requests have been filed in 2021 so far. But this is the steps that a person would take, ask themselves what they expected they could sell their property for as of January 1st, 2016. If it's reasonable, if not, go to About My Property, look up similar properties, and file a request for reconsideration if need be. The request for reconsideration process is outlined here. So review your notice when you receive it. Even though we didn't send out notices to all properties this year, there was 850,000 notices sent out and a number in the Niagara region. So we just always want you to pay particular attention to your notice when it's received. And this is the process. You can review it. We reflect changes to properties when we mail those property assessment notices every year, and we deliver the assessment roll the second Tuesday of December. And We also have a detailed service level agreement that we've developed in collaboration with you, the Ontario municipalities, that sets up our framework. And I've already talked about Municipal Connect. Even though our offices are closed right now, we are active in the communities we work in and live in across the province. And our municipal stakeholder relations team is always here to support councillors, the staff in the municipality, and the general public. And we encourage you to read the 2020 partnership report that we've presented. And lastly, you can learn more about our work at mpact.ca by following us on social media. And I look forward to coming back and sharing the reassessment details once we have direction, and sharing the market trends once they're available. So thank you for allowing me the time, and I welcome questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cunningham. Do any members of council have questions? I see Councillor Butler's hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do. There were a couple of statements that were made, Your Worship, and I just wanted clarification. You mentioned $65 million. That was just what was brought in from the municipality of Fort Erie alone?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, out to the councillor. Yeah, that was the growth that was added this year residentially for 2020 for Fort Erie. In terms of current value assessment, yes.
That was added on top of or altogether?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, that was added for this year, for 2020.
So what's the total? If that was added, what's the total?
Total assessment, including non-residential properties? I think it's in our report later on.
I didn't see it. That's why I'm asking. Okay, so well, maybe we can, when we get to the report, we can see that. I'm just curious though that because how do you justify the inflation that's happening in this great big huge bubble that's growing and growing on Dodds Court in Fort Erie, which is relatively cheaper than some of the other areas in Fort Erie. A house went into a bidding war, and over $80,000 of its asking price or its value. So how does that get taken into consideration with MPAC?
Ms. Cunningham?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, back to the councillor. So I mentioned a couple of times that we're using that January 1st, 2016 valuation date. So that's what we were looking at, a sales analysis, and we're analyzing the sales to come up with where the market's at as of January 1st, 2016. We're aware that now, currently, the market is a lot higher than it is in, or was in 2016. So we understand, and I mentioned the one sale doesn't make a market, but there's, if we have a number of sales, once the Minister of Finance determines what the new valuation date is, then all of the sales in and around that valuation timeline. So if he determines that it's going to now be January 1st, 2019, going forward for next year's taxation year and forward, then we'll be looking at analyzing the sales that have occurred in and around that time frame to give us an indication of the market.
Okay, I'm so sorry, you lost me, Your Worship. Maybe you can clarify. So you're saying that that you were looking at 2016. Does that mean, if we can cut through it, what year are we going to be looking at when you're given the go ahead? Still 2016, or it could possibly be what, 2021? I'm not sure.
There was supposed to be a reassessment last year in 2020.
Right.
That was deferred, and so MPAC is waiting for the authority from the government to establish a new date. And presumably, if it was 2021, this will be the new year. If it's next year, it'll be 2022. And the challenge for MPAC will be to evaluate all the properties as of that date. So what's going to happen? And Ms. Cunningham, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to have significant increases in the assessed value of their property, because they will be new homes built a few years, recently, assessed at a 2016 value. And this was not too far dissimilar to what happened in Fort Erie in Ridgeway by the Lake. where there was, after the 2016 assessment, there was a lot of property owners who were shocked at the increase in their assessment, which then had a reflection on the increase in their taxes.
Well, that's what's giving me great pause, and it's scaring me actually, because I just can't imagine after coming out of something as serious as COVID-19, what that is going to be reflected financially on all the people trying to recover. So I hope that you take that message back to you and to the powers that be, especially to the Minister of Finance, to recognize the fact that people are going to be digging themselves out for a long time, regardless of how the government has tried to help businesses and residents. It hasn't been to the level where they're going to be financially sound to pre-COVID dates. Thank you.
Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, to Ms. Cunningham. Ms. Cunningham, thank you for your presentation. Something I always struggle with is that, yes, the assessed value will change and usually increases with time. So the 2016 will be significantly lower than probably the new assessed value. However, that doesn't necessarily equate to an increase in the taxes that the city or the municipalities require to provide the services, right? So in other words, if my assessed value goes up 20% or 30%, doesn't necessarily mean my taxes are going to go up 20 or 30%, because perhaps the cost of providing municipal services remains the same or goes up 5 or, let's say 5%. So it's not an exact, like one goes up 30% doesn't mean your taxes are going to go up 30%. It all depends on what the municipality needs to provide the service. Am I correct on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, you're absolutely correct. It's if your assessment increased more than the typical, if all properties are going up the same, then it doesn't mean necessarily that there's a tax increase, and maybe Jonathan can speak to that as well. It's if it's more than average, then you would suspect that it would. But with a reassessment, we would be looking at reviewing all properties, and there would be ups and downs and shifts depending on what the market indicates, because we're not making the market, we're reflecting what the market is indicating.
I didn't know if Mr. Jansen wants to get in now or.
He doesn't. This is your opportunity to question Ms. Cunningham.
Yeah, that's what I thought. In the case where 2016 is the date that you guys evaluated, but if someone has a property that let's say for a natural disaster or whatever, landed up being significantly damaged so that the value of the property is considerably less, how can they then appeal to MPAC saying, yes, in 2016 it was worth $1 million, but now because of this and this that's happened to the home, none of their like a natural disaster, can they appeal them the assessed value?
Ms. Cunningham?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. The property owners have the right to file residentially a request for reconsideration first, and we would look at it. We would look at the property specifically individually, because typically if there's a natural disaster,
You're cut out there.
it's not standard across the board. So we would treat them individually, one-on-one.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then they wouldn't necessarily go back to the January 1st, 2016 evaluation. They could be reevaluated knowing with consideration of the damage that's been done to their property and the decreased value.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other councillors? Ms. Cunningham, just to get to the process. So when new houses are constructed, you presumably obtain some information from the municipality that a new house has been constructed, and you have to establish an assessed value. Is that correct?
In response to you, Your Worship, yes, we receive a monthly report of the building permits that are issued at the municipality, as well as the status updates of the permits once they're finalized or completed. And we follow up on all of those building permits, as well as any other inquiries or any other notifications, as well as looking at sales that have occurred heard. So we're constantly reviewing the data that we have and adding new information once we become aware of it.
And approximately how long does it take for MPAC to be able to establish the assessed value once you've received notification from the municipality that a house has now been completed and occupied?
Back to you, Mr. Mayor. I referenced that we aim to pick up 90% of the new residential within 1 year of occupancy, and I believe we achieved that last year in Fort Erie with the 92% that I referenced. 92.8% was added within 1 year of occupancy. So we're very timely with picking up the new information.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions by members of council? If not, thank you very much, Ms. Cunningham. We appreciate you coming out and providing us with that information.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, that gets us then to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone, sorry, Madam Clerk?
Just to let you know that I did reach out and spoke to Councillor Encina. He was in the waiting room, but something happened and he had to leave. So he
I
sent his
see.
regrets.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that. That's unfortunate, and yeah, he's usually very very diligent, and so it's unfortunate that he can't be with us. So thank you for updating us on that. That then takes us to the consent.
Your Worship, it's just, can we have a quick 2-minute break?
Yeah, I was going to ask this.
Yes, of course. Let's have. It's 8 o'clock. I didn't realize it was 8.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, I was gonna. Yeah, I'm not necessarily having fun. Let's come back in 5 minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So it's 8:06 now. Councillor Noyes is here. Councillor Lubberts. We're all here now. So we're all back and we're at the consent agenda. Does anyone wish any item removed from the consent agenda? If not, then Councillor McDermott, you have the resolution for the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler, that council approves the consent agenda items as recommended.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. I just wanted to comment on report number PDS 13, 2021, the Planning Development Services, particularly the bylaw portion. I think you had mentioned earlier how busy they are. I had a chance to talk to Paul Shadoba today. And one of the things I thought is that in the reading it, that just in the fourth quarter, there was 157 services for COVID. And that's just in the fourth quarter alone, despite all the other things that they have to do. And when I was looking at the pie charts, because it refers to services that are being provided, that those services do not include the issuing of tickets, like for parking tickets and that. So when you look at the pie chart and you see that there's 35% for COVID, and you see that not parking, I guess it's ticketing and stuff, there's only 7%. That only is when somebody calls them and they have to go do an investigation and look into it. But the day-to-day, driving by and giving people tickets for their parking is not included. And I think there was over 1,000 tickets issued for that. So it really shows how busy our bylaw officers are. And the other thing the report reflected is the new technology that they're using and how much more information we can glean from that and how much more efficient they're all becoming. That's all.
Yeah, that's correct. And it does enhance their ability to take on more work. But yeah, there certainly are some significant numbers over what we had even last year. Any other members of council? So on that particular point, Mr. Cookett, I did want to ask you about the reference at the bottom of page 6, top of page 7 of PDS 13 to the increase in the call volumes and the reference to the individual who was hired part-time starting in August. And are there plans with respect to a continuation of that service? I believe for the short-term rentals, there was some discussion about an individual. And I just can't help but think that with the increase in the call volumes, the amount of and the types of some of the calls that they're responding to, we're not going to be able to escape, even with the new technologies, the need for a full bylaw enforcement contingent.
Yeah, to your worship, that's the way things are looking right now. Is in the near future we're going to have to hire a full-time bylaw officer. Right now we're just kind of watching everything COVID related, and we're hoping that COVID comes to an end mid to late summer, where the call volumes start to decrease. But it's definitely on my radar that we definitely need somebody to help the 3 full-time that we have now. They're overwhelmed with work. I can see they're getting burnt out. We do have fire as well help us periodically with some of the bylaw issues, but in the future, we definitely need to hire another person. I was hoping to hold off till next year through the budget process, fill that position. But if need be, then we'll bring on another summer student this year.
Appreciate your frugality. You may have to give in. Any other questions or comments arising out of Councillor Lubberts?
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. I just wanted to make a comment on the report that we received from the Integrity Commissioner. I just wanted to say I'm glad the investigation is over, but I'm hoping that everybody will take the time to read the report, because it gives some pretty good insight on the fact that councillors, after appointed by council to a local board or committee, that there's certain exemptions that keep them away from conflicts. And I'm hoping people will take the time to read it and get a better understanding of how conflict of interest works. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, then I'm going to call a question on the consent agenda items. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. That then takes us to the items for consideration, the reports. In the first item, which is PDS 14-2021, Councillor Noyes, I've declared a conflict on. So can I hand you the chair, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Redekop. That brings us to report PDS 14-2021 Urban Area Boundary Expansion Study, addendum number 1. Can I have a mover? And a seconder?
Councillor, actually,
Councillor Dubanow has that.
Oh.
And yeah, and it was actually seconded by who did I? It was actually Councillor Zanko that was seconding that. I think it's already on the floor, though, now that Councillor Noyes has read it.
No.
Okay,
Chair. The public needs to know what's being put on the floor.
Absolutely. Not worry.
Okay, the report is now on the floor for comment and question.
Yeah, no. So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Zanko, that council endorses the urban boundary expansion study addendum number 1 for the purpose of the Region of Niagara's municipal comprehensive review process, attached as appendix 1 to report number PDS 14-2021, and further that council directs staff to forward a copy of this study to the Region of Niagara to further inform the Region of Niagara's municipal comprehensive review and official plan update.
Any comments or questions on the report? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Ms. Dolce, I just wondered if I could get clarification. I received a few phone calls inquiring as to the process for the urban expansion, and wanted to clarify why other lands that could be used for employment purposes and for development purposes aren't being included at this point, and whether or not there's an opportunity to have them included next year, the year after, the year after that.
Ms. Dolce.
Through to the councillor. So our consultant looked at any properties adjacent to the urban area boundary where there's some servicing and transportation network. So there was certain criteria that they assessed, and they chose properties based on that. There were some individuals that did ask us to look at other properties. The consultant's now done that. At this point in time, though, we have been advised by the Region of Niagara that any future boundary expansion requests need to go through them directly. So we are at the end of our proposal here. And now we're either going to endorse this tonight and hand it off to the region, but any future requests have to go through them directly for consideration.
And Madam Chair, just for clarification, when you say go to them directly, the people that own the property have to go to the region directly? Not us, right?
Through you to the councillor, yes, the individuals or property owners have to go to the region directly to make a request for urban boundary expansion. They're to a point in their process for their municipal comprehensive review process that they're almost complete. That portion of the review, they are going to be reporting to regional planning committee in April. And at that time, they will have some suggestions on land areas and where they might go. So they're pretty far advanced at this point. Even with this report here, it may be, they're aware of it, which is good, and the recommendations of our consultant. But after this, they're really running out of time to get the requests in.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Butler, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the report? The report carries. I will turn the chair back over to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Noyes. That takes us then to report PDS 15, and Councillor Zanko, you have a resolution.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dubanow. PDS 15 2021 proposed draft plan of subdivision and amendment to the Town of Fort Erie official plan and zoning bylaw 129-90, Royal Ridge Phase 2, 613 Ridge Road North, Royal Oak Property Developments, care of Brent King, owner, KLM Planning Partners, Inc. as the agent. That council approves the Royal Ridge Phase 2 draft plan of subdivision dated June 11th, 2020, showing a block for a 4-story, 40-unit apartment building, 3 blocks for 3 semi-detached dwellings, a lot for a single detached dwelling, a block for the park, and a block for the environmental protection area as shown in Appendix 3 of report number PDS 15 2021, in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act RSO 1990 CP 13, and that the regulations thereunder subject to the conditions contained in Appendix 7 of the report number PDS 15 2021. And further, the council directs staff to circulate the conditions of draft plan approval in Appendix 7 of the report number PDS 15 2021 to the applicable agencies in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. And further, that council approves the amendments to the town's official plan for Royal Ridge subdivision as detailed in Appendix 5 of report number PDS 15 2021. And further, that council approves the amendments to the town's zoning bylaw number 129-90 as detailed in Appendix 6 of report number PDS 15 2021 for the Royal Ridge Phase 2 subdivision, and further that council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaws.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Dolch, or should it be to Ms. Dilwaria? Just a few questions. On page 6 of the report, there's a reference to the design setbacks of the apartment building generally are consistent with the town's zoning requirements. What does that mean, generally consistent?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the mayor, when we are talking about generally in compliance, that it means that the applicant is seeking relief for the rear yard setback and the interior side yard setback, but the design of the building, the height of the building, the exterior side yard setback, and everything else would be in general compliance with our zoning bylaw.
Right, and if I might, the rear and side yard setbacks are related to the height of the building, and there's a request for a change to those. What would the ordinary setbacks be for the height of this proposed building?
So the setback would vary for the rear yard setback. Like if for the rear yard setback, it would be half the building height. And in this situation, the building is about 12 meters. So that would be 6 meters would be required. And in this situation, they are seeking 4 meters. I'm just talking
Right.
rear yard setback, yes.
Right, okay. And the environmental impact study that was done, for this particular phase. Was that an update of the EIS that had been done for phase one?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And I know that the Environmental Advisory Committee requested some recognition for a wildlife corridor, and it was, I think, determined that that wasn't practical for this particular development.
That's correct, Your Worship.
And part of that had to do with the fact that there were two roads, Prospect Point and Ridge Road, between Shagbark Trail, where there's a significant wooded area, and these parcels.
That was one of the criteria for not supporting EAC's request. And second was it was not identified as a corridor in the secondary plan.
I wonder if the wildlife are aware of the secondary plan. And you may not be able to answer this technical question, but there is a reference on pages 24 and 26 of the report to the elevation of the terminus of Street B. That seems to be a concern, and that may be engineering that had that concern. Can you respond to that, or should I ask maybe somebody from engineering?
Your Worship, it would be better if somebody from engineering could answer that.
Yeah. It may be that Mr. Welch isn't familiar with this. So I will, sorry about that. I just didn't have a chance to get to Mr. Korovar, who I think is dealing with this. Ms. Dolch, would you have any knowledge of that particular issue?
No, I would have to speak with Mr. Korovar as well.
Okay, that's fair enough. Councillor Noyes, I wonder if I could hand the chair over to you, because I want to make some comments about this.
Sure. Any further comments? Mayor Redekop.
Yeah, so as I had expressed before when we dealt with the extension of phase one, I have concerns about the access to this subdivision that's before us now, phase two. And one of the concerns is that in this report, there are 17 references to phase one. And in fact, the EIS was an update to the phase one EIS. There's a reference to engineering issues related to phase one. The internal road network is tied into phase one. The sanitary sewer is tied into phase one's engineering. And the stormwater management is also part of what was done in phase one. All of which leads me to my real concern, which is the point of access to phase one. And I don't think in good conscience I can support this, believing that there will be problems with respect to that one access point and its elevation and the impact on the neighboring properties going in, when in my view, that was easily resolvable by requiring the developer to simply make an access point where this phase two fronts on Ridge Road. The developer didn't want to do that, and I understand why the developer didn't want to do that, because he didn't want to have to move or tear down the existing house because the vacant lot wasn't large enough. However, I'm not sure that that's an adequate reason for us to go along with the developer. At least I can't, and I respect the views of all of the members of council who take a different view on this than I do. But I get one vote, and my one vote has that concern. And so I appreciate the opportunity to at least speak to the issue, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Butler.
Madam Chair, I just wondered, going through, let me preface this question first, that I recognize that the developer has accommodated all the different requests that have been made in the public meetings, and has also, you know, change the environmental setback from 15 meters to 30 meters and has done a lot of things. But the mayor just raised something about engineering, and I'm just curious if we could get further information with respect to that, because that's the first time I've heard of any engineering problems.
Councillor Butler, are you asking?
I'm asking if maybe someone can relay some further information,
Yeah,
maybe from the planning department. This is the first I've ever heard of it.
Yes, I'm wondering then if because the mayor kind of raised that before in regards to the engineering questions, and we were told that neither Mr. Walsh or Ms. Dolch would be able to answer those questions, that it would have to go then back to Mr. Corbier. So are you asking for it to be tabled until you get that information?
I don't believe that it's going to be problematic to table it until March 8th, will it?
I don't have a problem with it, but are you putting a motion to table?
Or I'd like to ask Ms. Dolch if that's going to be problematic.
Ms. Dolch? At the March 8th meeting, would we be able to have the inquiries in regards to engineering answered?
Through you to the council, we can provide some information. Right now, as you can, I'm trying to get some clarification. It does reference Street 2 on our plan. I'm assuming that's Street B in reference to Street B, but I can't confirm that. There is the issue. It's related to fill, and I believe it's at the end of Street 2. But I'd have to get some more information from Mr. Corvar on that, and we can do so by March 8th. Also, there is the planner in the waiting room from the consultant side, if they may be able to answer that question as well. But if not, I'd rather come back on March 8th with that answer.
Councillor Butler, goes back to you. Do you want to table it now, or did you want to access some information from the engineer, from the builder, the developer?
I'm just wondering, March 8th isn't a long time away. It's only 2 weeks. So
if you want to table it, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we could table it to March 8th, and then that way we could get that information. We can also get the information from the planner as well. And I do want to say I'm in full support of this report. It's just that I don't want that gnawing in the background after I've made a decision. So I'd like to find out the information first.
Ms. Schofield, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I just want to clarify what you're doing is postponing, not tabling, which has a different meaning for us.
Okay, so we're
I just want to make sure you move the right motion.
Okay, so you postponing it then to the March 8th?
Yes, thank you.
All those in favor of the postponement? Do I
need a seconder? Need a seconder for
that? I need
that.
a seconder. A seconder. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Mayor Redekop. So the postponement is now on the floor. Any comments or questions in regards to, is it just timing now because it's the proponent? Okay. Any more questions on the postponement? Seeing none, all those in favor of the postponement? Okay, I see 3. All those. Councillor Dubanow, did you have your hand up or not? Okay, I'm going to do this again because it's hard to look at all. All those in favor of the postponement, please put your hand up. Okay, all those against? So the postponement carries. So I will now turn the chair back over to Mayor Redekop.
Thank you very much, Councillor Noyes. That then takes us to report PDS 16. And Councillor Dubanow, you have the resolution for that.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott. PDS 16, 2021, proposed official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, 7 Central Avenue and 100-1 Queen Street. That council approves the amendments to the town's official plan and zoning bylaw number 12990 as detailed in Appendix 8 and Appendix 9 of report number PDS 16, 2021 for the lands known as 7 Central Avenue and a portion of 100-1 Queen Street. And further, that council approves the entry into a community benefits agreement pursuant to Section 37 of the Planning Act with Compass Heights Development Limited for the lands known as 7 Central Avenue and a portion of 100-1 Queen Street upon the terms and conditions outlined in Appendix 10 to report number PDS 16-2021 and in a form satisfactory to the town solicitor, and further that council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaws.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Very happy to see this on the agenda tonight to move forward. It's a bit of a unique situation because that's the corner there is a brownfield property that was sitting with a dilapidated building for a very long time. And through the efforts of individuals who saw, a benefit to bring a proposal like this to Fort Erie, not only are we going to see an intensification and a reduction in the amount of sprawl necessary to house the same number of people in our community, but we're also going to see a property that was sitting there doing nothing turned into a beneficial use. And because of the Gateway secondary plan, we're able to utilize some Section 37 benefits as well. Councillor Butler mentioned earlier about whether Mr. Pacero had looked and saw the availability of funds for affordable housing. There's not only the benefit to the community under the Section 37 benefits for the affordable housing, but there's also a benefit to the community of seeing a vacant property right at an anchor intersection right in Ward 2 turned into something that's actually going to be able to house people and create jobs. So I'm excited about seeing this move forward, and I thought I'd share those thoughts. I think this is going to be a good thing for Fort Erie.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dubanow. And when you're excited, I'm excited. Any other questions or comments? I just had 2 questions. And Ms. Dilwaria, the Gateway area, is that bounded by the area that's referred to in the report and Appendix 10? That is concession over to the river from, I think it said Birdie down to the lakeshore?
Your Worship, you're talking about the Gateway feature, where it would be located?
No, the Gateway secondary plan area.
That's right, yeah.
So, and hence, because this property is within that Gateway area, you've used those boundaries as the area where the money for affordable housing should be utilized.
That's my understanding, Your Worship.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just wanted clarification on that. And I had one other question, and it related to the neighbor immediately to the west who had raised some concerns. Is it your understanding that those concerns have now been addressed?
That's to your Worship. That's my understanding that the neighbor's concern have been addressed. The applicant has met with that neighbor, and actually the neighbor had called me before this this council meeting. He called me last week, and he did not have any concerns. Like, he did not air any concerns to me, did not discuss anything to me. So it's my understanding that he is satisfied with, like, his concerns have been addressed.
Thank you. And I believe one of them had to do with construction, but if there are issues that arise during construction, there's always his ability to contact municipal staff. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other members of council have any other questions or comments? Then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the report's recommendations? None opposed. That is carried. So that gets us to report PDS 17-2021, and Councillor Butler, you have that resolution. You're on mute.
I had this beautiful conversation going. I apologize.
Well-
I was just saying I lost my agenda notes, so all my agenda is gone and my notes are gone. And but we're on resolution number 7, correct?
We're on resolution number 7, correct?
Okay. So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott. PDS 17-2021 Animal Welfare Protection and Control Bylaw Recommendation Report. That council receives the draft animal bylaw attached as Appendix 1 to report number PDS-17-2021. And I apologize, I can't grab anything off of my iPad right now. So I know that Madam Clerk had given me some instructions on how to handle this, but it's all lost.
Yes.
So I apologize.
Yes. If you ask that the recommendations be dealt with individually, and you can go through them one at a time, and you can insert your option in the second one.
Okay, so should I just read it all first and then?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think you should read it all at once, and then you can deal with it. We'll deal with it individually.
That's right. It needs to go on the floor.
Okay, thanks. That council chooses option number for the licensing of cats, and further that council approves the draft animal bylaw attached as Appendix 1 to report number PDS-17-2021, subject to the revisions required to implement council's choice of option number blank for the licensing of cats.
Did you have a number that you wanted to insert?
I've lost all my notes, so I can't even tell you what I wanted, to be honest with you. So it just completely wiped out on me.
Okay,
I
so
actually was going to defer this, to be honest with you, to March 8th. I was going to move to defer this.
okay. What's our agenda look like on March the 8th?
That's what I wanted to know too. It didn't have to be March 8th. It could be a little later too.
It's a very comprehensive report for sure. Look, if you wanted to move to defer it, Mr. Cookett, tell us what does March 8th look like? Do you recall?
I don't, Your Worship. I'm not sure. I don't know if Ms. Schofield has an idea of how many reports are coming March 8th or not.
I believe maybe Kira can confirm, but we do have one public meeting. I think I've seen so far 4 PDS reports. And it's too soon to tell you what IS might do, but Mr. Walsh might be able to tell you what he anticipates for the 8th.
We have 2 public meetings on the 8th. The next meeting after that would be the 22nd. Would that be acceptable, Councillor Butler?
Yes, it absolutely will.
So if you want to move that we defer this to or postpone it to March the 22nd, is there a seconder? Councillor Zanko? So that's on the floor. It's just to timing. If there are no questions to timing, then I'll call the question about deferring report PDS 17-2021 to March the 22nd. All those in favor? I'm sorry, Councillor Noyes, you're in favor? Then everybody's in favor because Councillor Dubanow, you had a conflict. And who had seconded that, Councillor Butler? Who did you have as a seconder for the report, the
McDermott.
resolution?
Councillor McDermott.
Thank you. Okay. So that takes us then to new business or inquiries. And Councillor Butler, you have resolution number 9.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that council appoints Tyler B. Chevalier and John Arbor to the Ridgeway Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the period ending November 14th, 2022.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. And Councillor Lubberts, you have the next resolution with respect to Niagara's public transit system.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. I'll need a seconder. Is
Councillor
Councillor McDermott?
Yep.
All right, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that council supports in principle the full commission as the recommended governance model for the consolidation of Niagara public transit system, subject to further review of the recommendations from this council.
Are there any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Are there any other items of new business or inquiries? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just want to make a few quick comments, more shout outs to any more than anything else. Nick Chevalier and George Stojanovic in the infrastructure department, the road crew. I got to give them a big, kudos for the amount of inquiries that I've had regarding snow removal over the last few weeks and the assistance that they've offered up to residents. It's much appreciated. And I know Mr. Walsh and all the work they've done. It's there's been quite a bit of snow and they've been very receptive. I also want to thank Mr. Cookett for the snowmobile patrol and working with the NRPS. That has been a long time coming. And I've actually had several residents reach out to me expressing how pleased they are to actually see the police going up and down the road, flicking their lights on if they see a snowmobile. We've come a long way. I also want to thank the mayor as well for all of the work that he's been doing at the region right now with regard to the COVID framework situation. I don't want to beat a dead horse on that. I know he's working very hard at the region, but Your Worship, personally, I want to thank you for everything you're doing. I know residents as well in the community thank you as well. And one last thing, I want to give a shout out to Odin. He is a 6-year-old Ward 2 resident. He asked his mom tonight to contact his counselor to express with all the changes going on in Fort Erie that we need a toy store. So I'm mentioning that tonight. And I got the message about a half an hour ago and I said, you know what, Odin, you're a young Ward 2 resident, but that's what we're here for. So just mentioning that. Thank you very much for the time, Your Worship.
More than welcome. And you've got a new mission in life, get a toy store in Fort Erie. I should mention that the mayor's had a meeting this afternoon as well to talk about COVID-19 and to talk about the communications plan, both with respect to the changing status from week to week and also about the vaccination plan. And I received, which I pass on to the acting medical officer of health, a couple of emails relative to wanting to know what the plan is for vaccinations. And to me, that there is a plan. We received at the town's emergency operations committee meeting Thursday morning quite a detailed recitation of activities by the fire chief who sits on a committee, and there's a lot of detail that's being put into the logistical aspects of a vaccination plan. And I'm urging public health to get that plan out there because people need to know that. They need to have confidence in the fact that there is a plan that people are working on. And although it may change from time to time, really dependent upon a number of factors, most importantly, the availability of vaccines, the fact is, we can have the plan in place and we can have it ready to go subject to the receipt of the vaccine. So hopefully that information will be coming out shortly so that the public is aware of that. And that will make it much easier, I'm sure, for all of us to be able to explain to our residents and our business owners what's happening. And this is a team effort. There's no question that all of us, members of council, members of staff, are all working very hard. And, you know, Councillor Dubanow, when you mentioned about the ATV patrol with the police, that again is something that, as you mentioned, the town has participated in, and have to give a lot of credit to Mr. Chidoba, who has really developed some good links and relationships with the police and some of our other partners. So your comments are, I'm sure, very well appreciated by those individuals that you mentioned and staff. Any other inquiries or new business? Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually have two. My first one is to Mr. Walsh. Just a comment and a question. Thank you very much for your help with all of the garbage removal at Waverly Beach, and to Mr. Hutton as well. I know you guys have been, it's been a real issue with overflowing garbage, and you guys have added some additional resource to help. My question is, so one resident had actually brought this forward to me. With all the new wayfinding signs that we have throughout the town, you'll notice there's a little icon on the wayfinding sign that says do not litter. It's a do not litter picture. But yet at a lot of these parks, there's no trash can to be found. So I'm wondering, is that simply because it's winter time, and can we expect to see more trash cans at every park that we have underneath these wayfinding signs, or just wanting you to confirm what that plan is?
Mr. Walsh?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. That is a seasonal operational efficiency. As you know, we reduce staff in parks over the winter, and to take away from our normal maintenance crews, it's the cemetery crew that goes around and collects the garbage. With their duties in the cemetery, they're reduced in winter certainly, but we wouldn't have time to collect all of the cans that we have out in the summer. So it is a seasonal operation of ours.
I can add that I know that there have been some trash cans that have been put out, and Mr. Hutton has been really monitoring that situation. And there have been occasions. One of the problems that we have is people use the recreation trails as an example. They walk their dogs. People pick up after their dogs, and then they leave the garbage bag beside the trail because there are no receptacles. Mr. Hutton has been addressing that, and I know that Mr. Walsh is familiar with that. So there has been some progress, but that's an issue that I think it's a policy issue that I think council might want to discuss. And so I would ask Infrastructure Services perhaps to raise that at the next subcommittee meeting.
Yes, that would be great. I agree with that, if possible. My next question, thank you, Mr. Walsh. My next question through you, Mayor Redekop, to Ms. Dolch. I've had another resident express interest and inquiring as to why we don't have another dog park. I know we talked about this. When I looked at the animal welfare policy, and you know, it is noted in there that there is only 3 parks that dogs are allowed to be brought to. I wondered if I know the last time we had spoken, you were kind of reviewing with Signe maybe an additional dog park somewhere throughout the town, but we hadn't really touched base as to where we're at with that. I just wanted to follow up and inquire on that.
Ms. Dolch?
To the councillor, we are looking at dog parks as a whole as part of our Parks and Open Space Master Plan, but we are looking at possibly the Spears neighborhood to the north of Crescent Park as a possibility at this point.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I had.
Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Just on the dog park, I've also heard, and I've had lengthy discussions with Ms. Hanson that Stevensville will hopefully be the next dog park. So when I hear Spears Road, I'm a bit concerned because Stevensville has been anticipating that there be some movement forward on that. But I'm sure that will be something for council to decide in the future. My other comment was about the wayfinding. And I know that a while ago we talked about the signage of Ferndale Park, which I guess historically was never really Ferndale Park. It was Birdie Centennial Park, and that was the official name. And for whatever reason, none of us were around. They started calling it Ferndale Park. And I did look on the web and our websites, and I did look in our published things for the Leisure Guide and Information Guide for Fort Erie, and everywhere, even on our town maps, I think even if you look at your ward maps, it refers to it as Ferndale Park. And now that we do have a bylaw or a method or process to officially change the name, I'm wondering whether we should consider changing it officially to Ferndale Park, or else do something about changing everything else that calls it something else.
Well, I thought we had arrived at a compromise with respect to that we were going to be signing it as what it is properly known as, but referring to it on the sign as well if it had an alias. I mean, I went to high school with a guy whose name was Lizard. I honestly didn't know that the guy had a real name, and it turns out that he did. But I doubt very much that I would suggest to his parents that they formally change his name to Lizard as opposed to his real name. So I thought we had agreed on that situation. Ms. Dolch, you may not be aware of that, or Mr. Cookett, I guess you've got some information on that.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Ferndale Park is on the sign. It's in brackets on the new sign. So it has both names on the sign.
And there are other parks where we're going to run into the same situation, I think, Councillor Noyes.
Well, hearing that's good. I didn't know that I thought in the discussion we were saying that we didn't like AKA because it just leads to confusion. But then it brings us to the next issue is that if it's referred to as Bertie Centennial Park in big letters, and then in brackets it's Ferndale Park, are we then going to change our websites and our leisure guides and anything else that we're publishing going forward to have Bertie Centennial Park in brackets Ferndale? Because right now we only have Ferndale.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If we're going to have a few parks with different names, then I think we should, in our publications, make reference to that. So maybe Mr. Cookett, you could pass that on to Ms. Tesmer, who's, I think, responsible for these things.
I will, most certainly.
Thank you.
And just for the record, I think we should have changed it back, officially changed the name to Ferndale, with the exception of Mr. Lizard. I would think that since everything is referred to as Ferndale Park, from what I can see, I couldn't find anything with a reference to Bertie Centennial, that probably would make more sense, but that's just my opinion.
Yep, fair enough. Councillor Zanko.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just further to what Mr. Cookett had said about Ferndale Park being shown on the sign, is that recent? Because I haven't seen Ferndale being shown on the sign, but if it was in the past few days, then perhaps I missed it.
I'd have to double check, but after we had the discussion at the council meeting, Mr. Hutton did tell me that it was on the sign in brackets. So the new wayfinding sign actually says Ferndale. I'd have to confirm that, but that's what I was told.
Okay, I see it almost every day, and I haven't seen it yet. So if you could, that would be great.
So let's leave it at this. If it hasn't been done, then it needs to be done. Okay. Councillor Butler.
Just have a quick question with respect to Stephen Piciro's presentation for the Fort Erie Lions Club and getting council to help approve it. Do we need to move a notice of motion tonight, or will we be able to do that once that information comes forward on the 8th?
Yeah, I think we're going to get that. I've asked for that information to be included in the recommendation or the information report. So we'll have it in the information report so that at least we'll have an understanding of what it means and how it would be financed. And we could, if there's anything that needs to be done, we could deal with it at that point, I would suggest.
Okay, thank you.
Any other new business or inquiries? There is one motion on our agenda, but I understand, Councillor Dubanow, that you're withdrawing it.
That's correct, Your Worship.
So we're going to mark that as withdrawn. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Madam Clerk, I intend to bring forward at the March 22nd regular council meeting a motion requesting staff to provide us with a report relative to the age-friendly community presentation made by Ms. Mindorf, I think last month. So that would be for March the 22nd. And if there are no other notices of motion, then that would take us to consideration of bylaws. So bylaws 17 and 18 have to be dealt with separately. Are there any others that anyone wishes removed from the package? Okay, Councillor Noyes, you have the resolution for first and second reading of the bylaw package, so that would be without bylaws 17 and 18.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that the bylaw package containing 12/2021 to adopt the general capital budget and general levy operating budget for the town of Fort Erie for the year 2021. Bylaw 13/2021 to authorize the entry into an execution of a letter of agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of the province of Ontario, represented by the Minister of Transportation under the dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. Bylaw 14/2021 to enact an amendment to the official plan adopted by bylaw number 150-06 for the town of Fort Erie Planning and Area Amendment number 48, Jason Pisacola, agent, and Frank Kenneth DeCorso, owner 064899 Nye Road. Bylaw 15/2021 to amend zoning bylaw number 12990-0-6489 Nye Road, Jason Pisacola, agent, and Frank Kenneth DeCorso. And bylaw 16/2021 to exempt certain lots and plans 59M-438 from part line control block 57, 4116, 4120, 4124, and 4128 Village Creek Drive, Park Lane Homes Builder Limited, J Hill. Bylaw number 19/2021 to authorize the execution of an assumption agreement for the Hagee Avenue condominium with 1703385 Ontario Incorporated, John Maletta, and Niagara South Standard Condominium Corporation number 162, John Maletta. Bylaw number 2021 to authorize the execution of an assumption agreement to the Bertie Street condominium with 1703385 Ontario Incorporated, John Maletta, and Niagara South Standard Condominium Corporation number 163, John Maletta. Bylaw number 21/2021 to amend fees and charges bylaw number 40-09 as amended, building permit fees and short-term rental license fees. Bylaw number 22-2021 to amend business licensing bylaw number 217-05 as amended, short-term rentals. Bylaw number 23/2021 to authorize the entry into an extension agreement with 5017018 Ontario Incorporated, OA Garrison Square Plaza, John Kurtzix, units 1 and 2, 660 Garrison Road. And bylaw number 24/2021 to authorize the sale of part lot 583 Plan 470 in brackets 0 Maple Avenue to George Bergman and Raquel Eric is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That bylaw package as amended is on the floor for questions or comments. Any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes?
Yes, I had comments about the short-term rental fees, and just a thought that actually someone put in my head here was they were saying that the $600 fee for most of them is really not much of a deterrent. Like, I mean, if they can get away with renting it, then for a year or two without paying, then the 600 is just kind of like a slap on the wrist. And what they recommended was that, just kind of thinking outside the box a little bit, but not only just have the fee, but perhaps they couldn't rent that property for a period of time. Like, in other words, if it's an illegal rental and they're caught, that we just don't fine them $600. We also don't issue a license for 4 weeks following, or whatever the time period is, so that it's kind of like a double penalty. They're going to have to pay $600, but they're also going to lose the rental income for that period of time that's stipulated. I just thought I'd throw it out there. The other thing, in talking to Mr. Shadoba, he also said that the $600 is all for each owner of the property. So in other words, if there's 4 owners of the property, that would be 4 times $600. That would be $2,400 instead of just the 600. So that it may be more of a penalty than, or a financial cost than we think when we're just looking at the 600. But I thought the suggestion of also not allowing them to rent for a period of time may really catch their attention.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you. I think that's an appealing recommendation too, but I just wondered, I was under the impression with the $600 fine that it was compounded. Am I incorrect?
Compounded in what fashion?
In terms of, you know, if they don't do anything about it, it
goes higher?
Used to go higher, yes. That's what, maybe I misunderstood when we voted on this.
Yeah, I don't think we
kept going.
I don't know that we did that. Ms. Dolch, can you refresh our memory?
Sure, through you to the counselor. So, and maybe what you meant by compounded, maybe it was the explanation that should they get fined the first day and they don't obtain the license, they could get a subsequent fine the next day, the next day, the next day.
Yes.
We can continually fine them. I'm not saying we always do, but we do ask them to come in and at least talk to the person. If they haven't, we will fine them again. If you know, so we do actively monitor what they've done, and if they've taken no action, we will continually fine.
Is that then Councillor Noyes's suggestion of penalizing them? I mean, I don't think after the first offense, maybe their second or their third offense, to not allow them to continue for the year. Is that something feasible that we can do today, or is that something that we should bring up at a later time?
I suspect that we could do it today if, because I think it's part of the bylaw. Madam Clerk, I'd be inclined to entertain that if somebody wanted to move it and it was properly seconded and council wanted to vote on it. I'd be inclined to treat that as a motion in order.
If that's what you would wish to do, yes, you could.
You're just saying that because I'm the mayor, or are you saying it because it actually is in order?
Well, it's not something we typically do, but you can do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just need clear instructions on the amendment to the bylaw.
Yeah. So, you know, this isn't something that's been discussed openly. So the only reticence I would have would be that the public hasn't had an opportunity to comment on whether they think this is a good idea or not. Not so much the public, short-term rental owners. So you could, you know, perhaps a safer way to deal with this would be for a proper notice of motion, so that it then becomes clear exactly what it is that we're wanting to direct staff to do in terms of penalties for the short-term rental violations, and the public, if anyone wishes, can at least comment or attend a council meeting and speak to us about it. So I would be inclined to say that Councillors Noyes and Butler, if you want to pursue this avenue, one of you perhaps should provide notice of motion, and I'll let you do that right now if you wish to for the March 22nd meeting.
I'll let Councillor Noyes do that. She raised it.
Councillor Noyes?
Okay, no, I guess my notice of motion is that council consider, in addition to the $600 increased licensing fee, a penalty in regards to, how to word it?
We've got the gist of it. Yeah, we have the gist of it. You can, maybe you should speak to Ms. Dolch between now and when you have to have this on the agenda. So the gist of it is you want to alter the penalty for violation to include not only a fine, but also a loss of right to rent pursuant to the bylaw. Okay. Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to quickly comment. I actually think that the idea that Councillor Noyes brought up, I actually I think it's a really good idea. I think it gives an incentive. But I think the notice of motion, Your Worship, I agree. I was a little concerned about dealing with this tonight. So I think that is the correct course of action. I was getting prepared to actually say I'd rather receive a report or something else with some information from staff. But I think it's a good idea. I think it is something we should pursue. I'm glad she brought it up.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments with respect to the bylaw 2221 or any other bylaw for that matter that's in the package? If not, then we're going to go to third and final reading for the amended bylaw package. And Councillor Zanko, you have that bylaw. So it's 17 and 18 that are out of the package.
And I had circled 14, Mayor Redekop, because you had a conflict with that, but that doesn't need to be removed.
I did?
No, he didn't.
No, I had a conflict with a report dealing with the urban area boundary.
Oh, okay. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that bylaw 12, 2021, 13, 2021, 14, 2021, 15, 2021, 16, 2021, 19, 2021, 20, 2021, 21, 2021, 22, 2021, 23, 2021, and 24, 2021 are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments with respect to the bylaws in the package? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Noyes, can we go back and we'll deal with 17 and 18 together because it's Councillor Dubanow that has the conflict with respect to each. So for first and second reading?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott that the bylaw package containing bylaw number 17, 2021 to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Ashton Homes Western Limited, Eldo, Porcello, Peace Bridge Village Phase 2, Stages 1 and 2. Bylaw number 18, 2021 to authorize the execution of subdivision agreement with Park Lane Home Builders Limited and brackets Debbie Hill, Peace Bridge Village Phase 2, Stage 3.
Given first and second reading?
Yeah, given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Those bylaws are on the floor for any questions or comments. If there are none, then Councillor Zanko, could you proceed with third and final reading, please?
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that bylaws 17, 2021, 18, 2021 are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any other questions or comments on those? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor Lubberts, you have the next resolution, which is first and second reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott. That bylaw number 2521 to confirm the action of council in its council and budget committee meeting November 3rd or meeting number 3 held February 3rd, 2021. Council meeting held on February 8, 2021, and council meeting held on February 22nd, 2021 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor McDermott, you have the next resolution for the third and final reading of the confirmatory bylaw.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Butler. That bylaw number 25-2021 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor, clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of the resolution? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Noyes?
There is a traffic coordinating committee meeting this Wednesday, the 24th of February, and it's going to be a Zoom meeting. There's also on February 24th.
What time is that at?
At noon.
Okay.
And there's also a meeting on Wednesday, the 24th at 9 a.m., also a Zoom meeting for the Fort Erie Not-for-Profit Housing Committee.
Thank you. Any other meetings? There's a broadband task force meeting tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And we have our usual emergency operations committee meeting Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And I think that's it for me. Any other meetings that anyone wishes to announce? Okay, then I'm going to go to Councillor Dubanow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Noyes, would you be willing to second the adjournment this evening? All right, so moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes. The council adjourns at 9:12 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on March 22nd, 2021.
All those in favor? That is unanimous.